itself. It says the coaching resume explained the chaos. Indiana Fever assistant coaches experience check. First, let's start with Breon January, assistant coach, limited coaching resume. Let's read Breon January resume. She joined Arizona State women's basketball staff as an assistant coach in 2017 while still continuing her WNBA career. So she not only played in the WNBA, she was also...
That resume right there. That's what has Indiana Fever fans questioning everything about this organization's commitment to winning. Because when you have a generational talent like Caitlin Clark, someone who's rewriting the record books and bringing unprecedented attention to women's basketball, you don't surround her with assistant coaches who have limited experience at the professional level. You bring in proven championship minds. You build a staff that matches the magnitude of the moment. Instead, the Fever assembled a coaching staff that looks more like a college program than a professional franchise trying to compete for championships. And the details of these resumes reveal something even more troubling about how this organization operates.
Now, I can see if she had like a higher position, I think she may be qualified because she's not been she's always been an assistant coach, so she might have the resume for that one. So we're gonna give her a little grace. Now let's do Christmas Kelly. Now she's an assistant coach. Now then coaching background. Now it goes on to say she joined the Fever coaching staff in 2023 under Christy Sides. Now returned to the Fever bench for the 2024 season. Now she was retained by Stephanie White for the 2025 season. Now something we have been noticing about the Indiana.
Let's start with Breonna January, because her situation actually represents the best case scenario on this staff. She played in the WNBA for years, competed at the highest level, and gained coaching experience at Arizona State while still playing professionally. That's valuable perspective. Then she spent 2 seasons as an assistant under Stephanie White in Connecticut during the 2023 and 24 campaigns. So she has recent WNBA coaching experience and understands the professional game. Of all the assistants on this staff, January has the most legitimate resume for her role. She's earned her position through a progression that makes sense. Player to assistant coach at the college level, then assistant coach in the WNBA. That's a natural career path. But here's the problem. She's the exception, not the rule. And even with her solid background, she's still learning on the job while working with a player whose talent demands veteran coaching expertise.
The Fever is that they do a lot of good old boy system. And hate to say it, gotta be honest, Christmas Kelly is part of the good old boy system. She was here. She got a lot of history with the Indiana Fever, so they kept her. Now, her playing resume is legit. Coaching resume remains limited for the Caitlin Clark era. That last part remains limited for the Caitlin Clark era. This is why the Fever does so bad. They have a generational player that do not have a Phil Jackson coaching.
Now we get to Christmas Kelly, and this is where the good old boy system becomes impossible to ignore. She joined the Fever coaching staff in 2023 under Christy Sides. Then she was retained for the 2024 season. Then Stephanie White took over and kept her again for 2025. Notice the pattern? Christmas Kelly has deep ties to the Indiana Fever organization. She played there, she knows the people, she's part of the family. And in sports, that kind of loyalty often trumps qualifications. The problem isn't that she lacks basketball knowledge or that she can't contribute. The problem is that her coaching resume, according to this breakdown, remains limited for the Caitlin Clark era. Limited. That's the key word. When you're coaching a player who averaged over 28 points per game in college, who broke Pete Maravich's all-time scoring record, who draws 3 million viewers to regular season games, limited experience isn't acceptable. This isn't about Christmas Kelly as a person. It's about organizational priorities. The Fever chose familiarity over expertise.
Now his resume a little long, but let's read it. He's a former college football player, not a former college or professional basketball player. So already, not to say, he might not know basketball because he did play football. You can't just say that, bro, because there's a lot of back in high school, bro. Like Drew Hanlon. I bet you guys never know this. Drew Hanlon. I went to high school with him. I know him. Drew Hanlon was a football quarterback before he ever played basketball. So you can't sit up here and say that just because you play football, you might not know basketball. He trained some of the best players in the world now, but y'all might not knew Drew played football in all of grade school. Drew didn't really start playing basketball for real until we got in high school. So that's just food for thought there. So I'm gonna give him a pass.
But Austin Kelly's resume is where this whole situation becomes almost comical in its dysfunction. He's a former college football player, not basketball, football. Now, can someone transition from football to basketball coaching? Absolutely. Drew Hanlon, one of the most respected skills trainers in the world, played quarterback before focusing on basketball, so the football background alone isn't disqualifying. But look at what Austin Kelly's actual resume consists of. He started as a high school boys assistant coach in Georgia. Then he became a graduate assistant at Georgia Tech women's basketball. Then he worked as an assistant scouting coordinator. Then he joined Vanderbilt's staff under Stephanie White as director of recruiting. Then he went to Arlington as an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator from 2021 through 2023. Then he followed Stephanie White back to the WNBA as an assistant coach. And now he's followed her to Indiana. Do you see the common thread? Every significant position in his basketball coaching career has been under Stephanie White or in support roles focused on recruiting and scouting. His entire resume is built around one person. He's Stephanie White's guy. And that raises a critical question about loyalty versus capability.
Now, much of his resume is built around support, scouting, recruiting, and working under Stephanie White. So Austin Kelly's whole resume is Stephanie White. He didn't work for her like 3 different damn times. He's her guy. And probably because he's not to say that he is a yes man, but he very much could be a yes man. This is bad. We're talking about a generational type player. Now, shout out to Sports Patriot. He captioned this. This should scare the hell out of every Fever fan. Stephanie White should have hired people strong enough to cover her weaknesses. Instead, she hired people who may not even recognize.
This is the part that should terrify Fever fans. When a head coach surrounds herself with people who have followed her from job to job, people whose careers are directly tied to hers, what you're creating is an echo chamber. You're not building a diverse coaching staff with different perspectives and varied expertise. You're building a team of yes men. And yes men don't challenge bad decisions. They don't offer alternative viewpoints. They don't push back when a strategy isn't working. They agree. They support. They reinforce whatever the head coach wants to do. That's not what championship organizations look like. Phil Jackson had assistants who challenged him. Greg Popovich surrounds himself with coaches who have their own philosophies and experiences. The best leaders in sports don't want people who agree with everything they say. They want people who make them better by offering different perspectives. But when you look at Austin Kelly's resume, it's clear his primary qualification is his relationship with Stephanie White. He's been with her at Vanderbilt, back to the WNBA, and now in Indiana. That's not a diverse coaching background. That's a career built on one person's coattails.
Has become, I would be furious. She went from elite structure, elite development, and elite basketball mind to a professional staff that looks completely unprepared for the magnitude of the Caitlin Clark era. Now, I want to go back here to the second paragraph. It stated, if I was Caitlin Clark, dad, agent, Lisa Bluter, all of these people who helped build her to become Caitlin, I would be furious. Lisa Bluter is arguably the reason Caitlin Clark plays at the level she played. She pushed that young lady when she was at Iowa. She let her play her style of play. She trusted Caitlin Clark as a ball handler, and she trusted Caitlin Clark basketball IQ on the court. If I'm Lisa Bluter, I'm mad because...
Now let's talk about what Caitlin Clark actually deserves, because this is where the organizational failure becomes inexcusable. She came from Iowa, where she played under Lisa Bluter, one of the most respected coaches in women's college basketball. Bluter gave Caitlin the freedom to play her game. She trusted Caitlin's basketball IQ. She built an entire offensive system around Caitlin's unique talents, and the results speak for themselves. Back-to-back national championship game appearances, the all-time scoring record in Division I basketball, and a style of play that captivated the entire country. Caitlin went from that environment, where she had elite structure, elite development, and an elite basketball mind guiding her, to a professional staff that looks completely unprepared for the magnitude of her talent. Think about that transition. In college, she had a Hall of Fame coach who maximized her abilities. In the pros, she has a staff where the assistants have limited resumes, and the head coach surrounded herself with loyalists instead of proven winners. If you're Caitlin's father, if you're her agent, if you're anyone who invested time and energy into developing her into the player she's become, you have to be furious watching this unfold.
I thought the wife of Kelly was the other chick. And when they said finishing her WNBA playing career, had no idea she played. Somebody else said, I've been saying this for well over a year. Badly. I feel for her. Oh, man. He must be losing his mind. Somebody said you have to go read the article I just dropped. My goodness. Somebody else said it is a closed-minded group. There are no fresh ideas, no fresh looks at things. It's almost a cult. I've compared Stephanie White to Lovie Smith being a Bears fan. Lovie, like Stephanie, surrounds themselves with yes men. I didn't even read the comments, and I said
The comparison to the Chicago Bears and Lovie Smith is painfully accurate. Lovie Smith was a defensive-minded coach who consistently surrounded himself with yes men rather than strong coordinators who could challenge his thinking. The result? Mediocrity. The Bears made one Super Bowl appearance early in his tenure and then spent years underachieving with talented rosters because the coaching staff lacked diverse perspectives and innovative thinking. That's the exact trap the Fever are walking into. Stephanie White has built a staff of people who are loyal to her, who have worked with her before, who owe their positions to her. But loyalty doesn't win championships. Expertise wins championships. Innovation wins championships. Having coaches who can see problems that the head coach misses wins championships. A closed-minded group with no fresh ideas and no fresh perspectives is exactly what this Fever staff represents. And Caitlin Clark, a player who should be competing for championships right now, is stuck in the middle of it.
you say they probably agree with every yes, Stephanie, you're right. All of these different things. But until we come to coach with this coaching staff, we're going to keep having problems. Caitlin Clark deserves a dynamic, diverse, let's just say, goddamn me, championship caliber coaching staff. Till we get that, we just got to stay on their neck, man. Till next time, shake the haters off. I'm out of here.
So here's what this all comes down to. The Indiana Fever have a once-in-a-generation talent. A player who transcends the sport and brings mainstream attention to women's basketball in ways we've never seen before. And their response has been to surround her with a coaching staff that prioritizes loyalty and familiarity over proven championship experience. They've chosen assistants with limited professional resumes. They've hired people who followed the head coach from previous jobs rather than seeking out the best available coaches regardless of prior relationships. They've created an organizational structure that looks more like a college program or a rebuilding franchise than a team trying to maximize a generational player's prime years. Caitlin Clark deserves better. She deserves a coaching staff with diverse backgrounds and championship pedigrees. She deserves assistants who have been in big moments and know how to navigate the pressure of expectations. She deserves a head coach who's secure enough to hire people who might challenge her thinking, who might offer different perspectives, who might push the entire staff to be better. Instead, she has a staff where the most experienced assistant is still learning on the job, where one assistant got her position largely through organizational loyalty, and where another assistant's entire resume is built around following one coach from job to job. The good old boy system is alive and well in Indiana. And until the Fever break free from that mentality, until they prioritize championship caliber coaching over comfortable relationships, they're going to keep underachieving. They're going to keep wasting Caitlin's talent. They're going to keep frustrating fans who can see exactly what's happening but feel powerless to change it. This isn't about attacking individual coaches. Brianna January, Christmas Kelly, and Austin Kelly might all be good people who work hard and care about the team. But good people with limited experience aren't enough when you're coaching a generational talent. You need great coaches with proven track records. You need championship minds who've been there before. You need a staff that matches the magnitude of the moment. And right now, the Indiana Fever don't have that. They have a staff built on loyalty and familiarity. They have assistants learning on the job. They have a structure that looks more concerned with maintaining relationships than winning championships. That's not good enough for Caitlin Clark. That's not good enough for Fever fans who've waited years for a player like this. And that's not good enough for a league that desperately needs its biggest star to succeed at the highest level. So the question for the Fever front office is simple. Are you going to keep running this organization like a good old boy network? Or are you going to build a championship caliber staff that gives Caitlin Clark the support she deserves? Because right now, those resumes tell a story. And it's not the story of an organization committed to winning at the highest level. It's the story of a franchise that's more comfortable with familiar faces than proven winners. And that's a recipe for wasting one of the greatest talents women's basketball has ever seen. The clock is ticking. Caitlin's prime years won't last forever. Every season wasted with an inexperienced coaching staff is a season you can't get back. Every year spent prioritizing loyalty over expertise is another year of underachievement. The Fever need to make a choice. And based on these coaching resumes, they've already made the wrong one. The only question now is whether they'll admit it and make changes, or whether they'll stick with the good old boy system until it's too late. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening in Indiana, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're going to keep holding this organization accountable until they get it right.